Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the United States is going to successfully diversify away from China, we need to continue to deepen our trading relationships with our neighbors in the Western Hemisphere. And when it comes to addressing the challenges of migration in Central America, it's critical that we use all the tools at our disposal, including trade and economic development. So taking a fresh look at DR-CAFTA is a natural part of both of those efforts, I believe. So while we still need time to judge the effectiveness of all the changes, are there any USMCA provisions that you believe should be included or expanded upon in an updated DR-CAFTA?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Menendez. It's a very important question, and obviously a lot of people are thinking about, is this a model? Is it the floor? Is it the ceiling? We think that USMCA, as we understand it right now, is a floor for enforcement. But certainly the kinds of programs that are being talked about for Central America should be addressing the serious violations of worker rights that exist throughout that region. And so it does concern us a little bit that, asking the sort of pitch to bring in private investment, recognizing that the Central American countries have weak labor enforcement capacity and weak laws in many cases, does raise a lot of concerns about whether this is really going to be effective in either improving living standards or as any kind of deterrent to migration. We need a lot more work.
Dr. McMurry?
It's very important that we get CAFTA to focus on provisions that enhance cooperation with biotech. We really need to see our biotech innovations sent around the globe and have open access to markets around the globe.
Let me ask you all, as you may know, Nicaragua is a DR-CAFTA country. In recent months, Nicaragua's Ortega's regime has arrested 6 presidential candidates, over a dozen prominent leaders from the private sector and civil society. We have not seen an authoritarian crackdown of this nature in our hemisphere in decades. When Congress passed DR-CAFTA, I don't think anyone expected it would end up with the United States extending trade benefits to an authoritarian regime. So do any of you believe that when we're faced with this kind of situation, when we have a trade agreement partner that makes a sharp authoritarian turn, that they should continue to receive all the benefits of that agreement?
Senator, I think any kind of violation of human rights, including labor rights, is something that we have to take very seriously. We have to look at the mechanisms, whether that's Nicaragua or whether that's Guatemala or El Salvador, where there have been very serious labor rights violations and human rights violations as well, and Honduras, where human rights defenders have been killed. So we have to. That has to be the frame through which we look at all of these agreements.
All of you, either from a labor or from a business perspective, want to deal with countries that not only observe the rule of law, but if there is a dispute, an intellectual property is a dispute on a contract, you can believe that you have a good opportunity to actually have that dispute fairly litigated in a court. But when you have authoritarian rule, courts are not a question of the due process and the rule of law. So I personally believe the United States has to incorporate standards into future trade agreements to safeguard against the deterioration of democratic governance and the proliferation of corruption and human rights abuses. Dr. McMurry-Heath, I know your organization has been closely watching the administration's work on the TRIPS waiver. Details on the scope, time frame, and other factors are going to be critical to make sure we get the outcome we all want. More vaccines distributed to those who need them, but of course with the appropriate safeguards. Can you describe your interactions with the administration in this issue? Have you been consulted as USTR develops their negotiating process?
Thank you, Senator. We have met with USTR, but in doing so, we made it clear that while well-intentioned, the TRIPS waiver actually will not solve the issue of getting more vaccines, COVID vaccines, into more people around the globe. We completely agree that it is a humanitarian priority and imperative that we do so, and no one is safe until everyone is safe from COVID. But IP is not the rate-limiting step. Rather, our Global Share initiative, which we can submit into the record, outlines really pragmatic steps we can take today not to have the 3 to 5 year delay it would take to actually build new manufacturing facilities that don't already exist, but it would allow our companies to fully use the 70 global manufacturing partnerships that they have in place today and give them the supplies and raw materials to manufacture really compliant vaccines and safe vaccines for patients around the globe tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard.